Hello, welcome to the Calling and the Climb podcast. My name is Phillip Hampton, and I'm joined with my host, Kent Curry. And on this podcast, Kent, we talk about entrepreneurship and my experience in building a business from nothing, from scratch. And what we've been talking about the last few episodes is where I finally found what my exit strategy was, and I began driving toward that exit strategy. And we're going to pick up on that here today.
Yeah, Philip, you're a founder. Not everybody's a founder. A lot of people are around at the beginning. And as a founder, I would think the last thing you'd been thinking about was, and now how do I get rid of this baby that I've grown to a young adult, 26 years, and then
Yes.
you're like, now it's time to send him off to college or to the next stage of his life, her life, my business's life.
Yeah, so that was the realization I came to late in the game, and so that's what we've been talking about is
Right.
my kind of ramping up on all things mergers and acquisitions, and just like everything else in my business, I kind of learned on the fly. And so I think we our last episode, I talked about we had this proven model that we
Yes.
could go out and sell into bigger and bigger clients, and that was bringing forth fruit. We were celebrating in New Orleans, and then I mentioned about the theme of Mardi Gras that year. We were there at Mardi Gras right
Right.
afterwards, but the guy told us the theme was omens and auguries, and this was
Mm.
in February of 2020. And that just kind of struck me. And then when I got home, I started thinking about it a little more. But sure enough, there were some dark clouds on the horizon, as we all
Yes.
know, that none of us saw. And it impacted us greatly. So obviously, I'm talking about the COVID pandemic. And it was not even a month after we got back from celebrating a huge win for our company.
Right.
And we were going to use that impetus to really start
Yeah.
moving toward going to market that year in 2020. That was the plan all along. And so, I've been in business at that point in time. I've been in business 25 years,
Yeah.
over 25 years. And you think, you know, eh, I'd come through a lot of things. I'd come through 9/11. I'd come through the financial crisis of 2008. I'd come through some crises of my own making that we've talked about
Yes.
on episodes past. And we made it through all those. And you would think, Kent, after 25 years, that I've prepared for everything. Any curve in the road, I'm going to be prepared. But none of us was prepared for COVID. We'd never seen it before,
Correct.
never seen anything like it. And so we were impacted just like everybody else. I think probably the most immediate thing for us was our entire office building, which there was multiple tenants, 20 something floor office building, was shut down.
Mm.
And you remember in the early days, if
Yes.
if someone was diagnosed with COVID and had been in a building, they just shut it down and brought in these hazmat cleaners. I mean, do you remember all
Right.
that?
Yes.
Oh, it
Yes.
was crazy. And so we did have some remote employees, but in those days, we still pretty much the Nashville crew worked, from our Nashville office, and so that was an immediate thing that we had to begin to recalibrate and crisis manage right from the
Yes.
get-go. Not only that, our clients were affected. Everybody was affected, and so in the early days, business still had to go on per se, but no one could get to their office, and so there was some adjusting to that.
Mm-hmm.
There was some crisis management. We had to deal with just with the fear of it. We even had
Yes.
some employees that were diagnosed with COVID. Now, thankfully, no one was seriously ill, requiring any kind of hospitalization, but no one knew. It was the fear of the unknown. And so we were having to manage that at a personnel level as well. So, and I'm not saying anything new. Everybody that lived through that horrible time knows exactly what I'm talking about.
But
So
did
it
you
was a new
feel like,
reality.
yeah, did you feel like you were kind of responsible, the parent over the workers? Like you had an extra responsibility besides your own health and your own, your family and so on and so forth as a
No doubt
founder?
about it.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, in many ways we had grown, but we're still a small company,
Mm-hmm.
about 50 employees, and and it did feel like a family. And
Yeah.
so we there was definitely a concern, and particularly when the news got back that several of our employees had been diagnosed with COVID, and so there was a concern there, staying in touch with them and so forth. But one thing that we found out was we had to go to a completely remote model. Now,
Okay.
thankfully, I've talked about sort of the paradigm that we had introduced for our clients. It was sort of an all cloud based solution for all of their technology, whether it be their billing, their document management, accounting, whatever it is. And so we have, from the last couple of years, we have been pushing that to our existing client base and moving it to that model. Obviously, we operated on that model where generally all of our information, everything that we needed business wise was in the cloud. And so what we found is that, yeah, people couldn't come to the office, but the data that they needed to run their businesses was available as long as they had an internet connection, which obviously most people did. So what we began to transition to do was to work with our clients, and in some cases we would have to go out or help them remotely, or maybe get them a new router, or maybe they had upgraded their router in a while and they weren't fast enough at home or whatever. And so that was what we began to do, is to uh, amass our support to go to our clients to get them up and operational as quickly as possible in a remote environment. One thing that I guess you could say kind of helped us so that our business just didn't tank was that our clients, our clients were law firms. And there were certain businesses during COVID that were deemed essential businesses. Law firms were one of those types of businesses. So our clients were still operational and still had to operate. And so that meant they really relied on our services. And in many cases, our our infrastructure was supporting their entire operation. So we became a critical link for them to keep moving even in a remote environment. And so after we kind of got over the initial shock of dealing with this, we actually we didn't have any kind of a sales operation per se. Prior to that, we were aggressively sending our salespeople out, trying to get new territory, new geography, and so forth. Um, so we sidelined all of that, but we actually picked up some clients where people, law firms that had not converted to our model, and they heard of law firm across town, they're operating just fine, and they called, hey, what can you do for us? And we picked up some business that way, just of necessity during the COVID crisis.
That's cool.
So what we became hyper focused on was normalizing technology for our clients during that period, and just trying to make um, everybody was dealing with enough stress. So what we wanted to do is take additional stressor off of uh, the frustration of not being able to get to their documents or get to their email or whatever it was that they needed to do their job. And so we became very focused on that and stayed very busy doing that. But I will say, as I mentioned at the outset of the year, particularly after we got that one big huge win in February, I told our guys, it's full steam ahead. We're going to market this year. Let's get ready. As soon as we get back to Nashville, we'll have a meeting and we'll begin to plan out what we're going to do. So then, less than a month later, everything shuts down. And so I told our guys, I said, you know what? Forget it. Nobody knew how long this was going to last. Maybe a week. Nobody knew. I said, let's not even worry about that. Let's put it on the back burner. Let's just concentrate on keeping our business running, keeping our clients operational, and we will pick that up at some point in time. And I'm thinking maybe in a couple of weeks we'll come back and we'll get back on track.
Right. Right.
Little did I know this is going to be a year and a half
Yeah.
uh, uh, longevity. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
but I wanted I told my two executives that were running the business, forget about that. Let's just concentrate on keeping the business running. Um, One thing that helped us certainly was SBA, and I think they were a lifeline for many, many, many small businesses. And so thankfully, because of the resources the Small Business Administration made available to small businesses, we didn't have to lay anybody off
Oh
during the
wow,
COVID period.
that's
And
fabulous.
that was big for me. There was
Yeah,
enough stress around. I didn't want to have to put people out with with no job and really no prospects of getting something during that period as well.
right.
So yeah, the easy thing to have done would have been to have laid off our sales staff because they were not traveling, they were not selling. We kept all of them. We repurposed them to do some other things, but they weren't selling
Right,
during
right.
that period. But we did not lay off any employees. Coinciding with the onset of the COVID pandemic, um, I had my own issue. Um, I don't even call it issue. When you were a business owner, sole business owner, like I was, um, the business can sometimes consume your life. It is your
Of
life in
course.
many respects, day
Yeah.
and night. It is week after week after week, month after month. And I haven't really talked about personal issues a whole lot on this because most of the time they're not germane to
Right.
what I did in the business. But there will come time when things come up in your personal life that is going to have a big impact on your ability to continue leading your business. And that happened to me
During
almost
COVID. During COVID.
almost immediately. Um, it was essentially the day after the lockdowns, at least in Tennessee,
Okay.
lockdowns, the day after my mother passed away.
Oh.
And to say I was devastated is an understatement. Now, my mom had been in failing health,
Mm-hmm.
but had managed and rallied, and so it's not like we were on death watch. We
Right.
knew she was weak, but it, no one's ever ready
No.
to lose their parents. And so that literally was the day after the lockdowns.
Mm.
And so I had been on the phone the day prior with my guys, and we're strategizing how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Let's touch every employee. Like you mentioned, everything. We're trying to be good parents to our employee base. And the next day, I get the news.
Yeah.
And of course, my first thought is for my father.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and dad had been married for 62 years. They were inseparable.
Mm.
My dad was mid 80s, and and I will tell you, Kit, as much as my business needed me in a time of great crisis, I could not be there. I couldn't do it. I had to forget about it. My family, well, my family needed me, and I needed my family because as you may remember, and I know so many people went through this. Now, my mom did not have COVID, but many people that did experience that can't go to the hospital. We were not allowed to have a funeral except just for immediate family. So many things that were just, it just made it a darker time. Now,
Yes.
my mom was a wonderful, wonderful person and lived a wonderful life. She was a musician, a music teacher, loved God, worked in the church all her life. And so we celebrated that just among our family. But it was I will tell you, it was a tough time. And I think the toughest part for me was my dad, just watching my dad grieve over that.
Mm.
That was, whoa, that was tough. That was tough. And so what my focus became at that point in time, even though things are going on back at the office, unprecedented things are going back at the office, my number one priority was taking care of my dad.
Of course.
Obviously, we're in COVID. You're talking about the dangers to seniors. And I became, I'm militant about protecting my dad. So went to where they lived. Long story short, we put dad's house on the market. I moved him to Nashville to live with me and all of that. And my guys back at the office, this is the point I want to make, Kent, for entrepreneurs, is we've talked about leadership in the past. And I've talked about what it means to be a leader, what I think it means to be a good leader, but also why I think it's so important, particularly for people that are going to lead your business, that you seek out people that have strong leadership skills and you hone that and cultivate those leadership skills within those people, even before you need them to step up to the plate.
Hopefully, yes.
Because at this point in time, I had not prepared them. Oh, we're going to have the weirdest crisis we've ever seen in 26 years of business. And by the way, I'm not going to be there to help you navigate it.
Yeah.
But those guys, those two guys, and I can name them, but I won't. Maybe I'll have them on sometime. But um, they took the reins. They had been running the business for the past 2 years, but they knew I needed time to grieve and just to be away from the business. So they didn't bug me with phone calls. They didn't bug me with emails. And I'd even realize it at the time after I came through that fog. I went back and I'm like, man, those guys, they did it. They had to make decisions on the fly.
Yeah.
They didn't come and ask me about it, but they did it. And I had confidence because remember way back we talked about the number one leadership quality that I value. I don't know if you remember this or not. I talked about it. Loyalty.
Yeah. You said that.
Because if
Loyalty.
someone is loyal to you, not just to me, but to the vision that you have for your company, then you can be assured that their decision making is going to be in alignment with what your vision is. I had no fear. I had no worries. Yes, I wanted to be there for my employees. Yes, I wanted to be there to kind of be, a stabilizing hand on everybody when the world's on fire. But I
Right.
couldn't.
Hmm.
I couldn't do it. And those guys performed marvelously during that period. I cannot say enough. So thankful for good leaders and people that instinctively don't have to be told this is what you need. I didn't have to tell them. I informed them about the death of my mother and kind of shared with them what my schedule was going to be the next immediate little bit,
Right.
and they took off and they took the bull by the horns and ran with it and kept our company afloat and kept our company even moving forward and growing. That's
Wow.
huge,
That's huge.
huge. So when I said dark clouds were on the horizon, it was more than just a COVID, and I didn't realize it. Starting really in that March of 2020, the next year to year and a half was the most difficult time of my life.
Yeah.
Uh, Difficult. I, I don't know if I live to be 100 that I'll ever have a period that was more difficult than that 12 months.
That's understandable.
And because after my mom passed away, and by the way, I had a very close relationship with my parents. I absolutely I am who I am because of them.
Okay.
Leadership,
Hmm.
dedication, work ethic. I mean, I
Right.
I would only hope to live up to their standard. I really that's how much I admire them. So I brought my dad to Nashville, and he moved in with me. I will say the next 11 months, I spent more time with my dad than I had since I'd lived at home as a kid. And that period was a gift from God.
Yeah.
My dad and I had so much fun. We went to the mountains. We went to tried new restaurants. I went and had made dad buy new clothes, and we went to the tailor and got them tailored so they'd fit right. We did we did. He planted a garden. We fixed up the front of the house. I mean, uh, we did so many things. But tragically, well, my dad passed away 11 months after my mom,
Oh.
and so I had after my mom passed away. Obviously, I was devastated. But what I kept telling myself, Philip, you got to hold it together for your dad. You got to be
Right.
strong for your dad. And so I bucked up and I was like, Dad, I'm gonna take care of you. Don't you worry. Everything's gonna be okay. So we sold his house, moved all his stuff, got him going to our church in Nashville. I introduced him to some of the other seniors
Right.
in Nashville. He didn't,
Yeah.
and did all that, and then my dad passed away, and so when that happened, I absolutely was devastated, and it seemed like that all of that grief or whatever, and I did grief, but I guess I bottled some of it up. And so after my dad passed away, I just kind of let it all go, and it it was tough. It was
Yeah.
tough. Now I'm going to backtrack just a bit because in that interim, during that 11-month period, as we're getting to the end of 2020, we look back and we had done well. We had actually gained some ground even during COVID. And so I told our guys, guess what? 2021, we're back on. We're going to market. Let's hit it. This COVID is almost over. We're going to
Yeah.
do this. And so it was right at the point that we were beginning to interview brokers or investment bankers, whatever you would call it, to represent us, that my dad passed away.
Oh.
So two extremely critical points in my business, dealing with the crisis and then the beginning interviews to sell the business. I had uh, personal things
Crises.
that happened,
Yeah.
yeah, that I had to deal with and had to be absent.
Yeah.
And you know, you say why, but it's life.
Right.
Is life. And so I think the key thing for me is if I had not selected people that I trusted and promoted and felt confident in giving them the keys to the business, if I didn't have that in place, we very well could have imploded during that 11-month period.
Yeah.
Very well could have.
Yeah.
Leadership is so important. So important. Know your leaders, know them, know their heartbeat. Their heartbeat needs to be your heartbeat. They need to be loyal to you, not just by word,
Yeah.
but I mean, you can pick that. I don't even know how to vocalize it, but you can pick that up. I'd had leaders before that were not loyal, and I knew it,
Okay.
and I held on to them too long.
Mm.
That because they were talented, but they weren't loyal. They they did not have my vision. It's not
Is the vision not only loyalty to you but loyalty to the company and the idea of the company?
absolutely. Those guys knew what my mission was. We're moving toward an exit. I'm wanting to exit out of the business. Now, obviously there's something in it for them because when I exit out, they're going to move up, obviously.
Right.
But they knew I had some things that I wanted to accomplish to get to that goal. And so my goal became their goal.
Okay.
And the things that were important to me, they made sure it was important to them. When
Okay.
we're going over P&Ls, when we're going over budgets, and they know that I obsess over a certain thing, that's the thing that they pay attention to.
Okay.
That's
And you can feel it in the heartbeat, as it
you
were.
can.
That so it's like if you're gone for a weekend as opposed to during a crisis, you know you're in good hands. You come back, you see the evidence of it being in good hands.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one telltale thing is how a leader responds to subordinates when you're not around.
Oh, that's good. Explain.
Okay. These guys had seen me operate and they know how I deal with subordinates, how I dealt with them. And I was I would like to say that I was an easy person to work for, but I tried to extend grace,
Mm-hmm.
but be demanding.
Okay.
Demanding but grace and always respectful.
Yes.
And if you receive that from a leader and then you turn around and you do not reciprocate that to people under your leadership, it's not good.
Okay.
And so that's what I look for, and you can tell how people relate to these individuals. Are they cowering in fear? Are they eagerly working for them? You can pick those things up. And so that was important to get me through my crisis. So then I could come back and re-engage when we're really ready to sell the business. And so that's what I'll pick up on the next episode. Just the mechanics. And it was my first time to ever sell a business.
Of
I
course.
had no idea. And so I'm going to give you my my trial by fire on the next episode. But before I got there, I just had to point out the importance of true leadership and how personal things can sometimes take you away from your business. And you need to have some margin that allows you to do that. And that leadership quotient is what gives you that margin.